Hi and welcome to another episode of Mad Gear, the show that likes to introduce you to some of the mad, strange, wacky and wonderful studio items and practices for the modern day producer and engineer. And on today's show, as it is Atari's 50th anniversary, we thought we'd have a dig around the studio and see if we could find anything that is made by Atari that we could use as a studio item. And Atari has been going, obviously, for 50 years. They started off with Pong. Then they shifted to the Atari 2600. Had some rather strange adverts. And then by the late 80s, they introduced the Atari Lynx.
Oh, yes! Oh, yes!
And this was a 16-bit colour handheld game system to rival the Game Boy. Now, the Atari Lynx was the most powerful handheld system at the time. It was considerably more powerful than the Game Boy and the Game Gear, and it had two chips in there, one called Mikey for its sound and one called Susie for its graphics. So why am I talking about the Atari Lynx? Why am I bringing this on our show? Well, retro gaming has become all the rage. Nintendo and Sega have reintroduced or re-released versions of their NES and their SNES. You can even buy portable emulators like this one. This is a Anbernic that will do all matter of games consoles, and comparing the two side by side, that is basically 30 years of technological advancement. And this will play all the games that this can with a better screen and better sound and Wi-Fi. But you can't find everything for this. And more importantly, this doesn't have the Mikey sound chip that this does, because that is where we're going to get all our retro chiptune tones and sounds from. Trackers have become all the rage, so there are numerous trackers for the Game Boy like Nano Loop, Little Sound DJ, plus many others. There have been no trackers made for the Atari Lynx, certainly not for the physical hardware. There is an emulated one called Chipper, which I've not really used. I believe the reason none have been made for this as an actual card is because it is quite a difficult system to program. Whilst all those people are using their Game Boys and coming up with pretty cool stuff, we're going to use something that's a little bit madder. As I mentioned before, Songbird Productions, they made and do make some pretty interesting cartridges. And this is one of the earliest ones that they made. Now, this is the SFX card. It's not a game. It is, as it says on here, the ultimate audio tool. And this is one of the very, very early ones where it's literally a circuit board with a chip on the back of it. It's not even plastic like some of the newer ones. This is a very, very unique and interesting window or portal to the sound engine on our Atari Lynx. I can't find an emulation for it to go on, say, our portable emulator, but as I mentioned, you're not going to get the same converters, DAC converters, on that as you will your Atari Lynx. But we don't have a tracker. And this is where I bought in my Polyend tracker. Now, this is a hardware tracker, sampler and sequencer and effects unit and all matter of stuff. It's even got a radio in there if you want to sample off the radio. And what we're going to do in today's show is we're going to program sounds on our Atari Lynx using our SFX game cartridge. We're going to sample them within the Polyend tracker, and then we're going to sequence them like you would do any other tracker and create loops, riffs, sounds, patterns using just tones from an Atari Lynx. So yes, I'm going to show you where you can turn an Atari Lynx into a synthesizer full of 8-bit chiptune goodness that is mad. On first impressions, the Atari Lynx is ticking all the Mad Gear boxes because it's a late 80s, early 90s games console with 16-bit graphics, which was quite groundbreaking at the time. It was the most powerful handheld games console of its era. And when you load the card in, you're presented with this screen. Now, my Atari Lynx is dying a bit, hence why there's a lot of grey lines on it, but it's still enough for us to be able to see it. Let me go through some of the things on the screen. So we've got volume, shift, low shift, backup, and flags. You program this using hexadecimal, which is letters and numbers, and that's about all I know because I'm not a programmer. If anybody wants to write down in the comments beneath, feel free to add some information. And we have option 1 will cycle through up to 4 partials or 4 tones that you can create or you can add together to create one big oscillator or tone. And option 2 will just reset the settings of the partial that you've selected, and then A will also turn the sound on. So if we go up to, we'll stick on partial 0, you will hear straight away we come with like a simple square wave. And if I press shift, there doesn't really seem to be any rhyme or reason to this. It just seems to, you just kind of go through and basically find a sound that you like by just going through the settings. So I'm going to keep this going. Now backup is like a tuning in shift, in sense. And flags is like your octaves. So it is a little strange. The low shift I have no idea what that does. You can see that you can hear that it's making changes, but there doesn't, again, seem to be any logic to it. Perhaps Carl Farham, who was the developer, who I believe is still actually part of Songbird Productions, might be able to help and give an explanation as to what that control does. So I'm going to keep that there. I'm going to choose another partial and I'm going to add this. You can continue like this and create tones. Now, unfortunately, this is about as far as you can go with the Atari Lynx using this card. You can't sequence anything with it. You can't trigger it with a MIDI keyboard or a synthesizer because it just doesn't have that connectivity. There is no tracker for the Atari Lynx, as I said in the introduction. So we are going to have to go from here and record our sounds within a hardware tracker. Now this is a modern day device made by Polyend, who are a Polish company. It's an incredibly well made piece of kit that gives you a whole host of tracker-like functions as well as sampling. And today the sampling is what we're going to look at. So we're going to take our tone from our Atari Lynx. That's going to be our oscillator, and this will be our playback with our typical synthesizer controls, so like envelopes, VCAs, and filters, and also effects. So I've got this armed, and as we press this, you'll see that there's a nice strong signal coming in. Well, I'm going to press record, and record the tone in. And there is our tone. And we can zoom in. Actually, let's get our start point first of all. And if we go to our endpoint, let's zoom out. So this is not to do with looping at the moment or anything like that. It is purely just to crop your sample down. So we'll do that. We'll press crop, and you'll see now it's been shortened. I'm going to press save. Now something I do like about this is you can auto name it, and it just comes up with something mad. And in this case, it is the unadvised potato. That is going to be our sound, and I'm going to save and load it. And you'll see there is our sound. Sound number 12, the unadvised potato. Brilliant. And we're going to come to our sample playback. And first of all, we're going to go to sample editor, and we're going to normalize it. Within the Polyend tracker, you've got a load of effects and everything else. These are destructive effects. They're not like plugins, so basically anything that you do with this, you can undo it, but ultimately you are writing that to the sound. So I'm not going to do anything here, but I'm going to go to sample playback. You can see we've got one shot, forward loop, backward loop, ping pong loop, slice, beat slice, wavetable, and also granular. And you really do have a lot of options to take our core Atari Lynx oscillator sound and turn it into something that is truly mad and also truly unique. So I'm going to go to just forward loop at the moment, and I'm going to find my loop start. So let's loop start, let's zoom in and get this at a 0 crossing point. So there you go, let's get that there. And let's get a loop to an end. So we can also make that go backwards loop, or a ping pong loop. I'm going to go down now to our wavetable. So we can change our position. Or we can go down to our granular. So we can change where it kicks in. So change the shape. And from there, we have built a sound from our Atari Lynx that is our oscillator, and we can play it back as a normal keyboard using this. We could connect a MIDI keyboard and play it back that way and do things, all matter of stuff. One thing though, at the moment, it would be a really, really good idea if we choose our instrument, again, unadvised potato, And this time I'm going to use a guitar tuner to tune it in key. Now, all the other samples that I've already sampled from the Atari Lynx are in chromatic. They're all tuned to C. So everything is in tune. Now, if I press note, you can see that this is C, D, E, F, G, A, B. And you got different octaves, so C3 up to C6. And if I press C and look at the tuner, and if we go to our fine tune, just a little bit flat. I don't know if that's playing the C sharp. Yeah, that's right. So never underestimate the power of a good tuner. This Boss tuner is free from the App Store and it works on both Android and iOS, so it's definitely worth getting. Now, if I go back to my arrangement, you will see that I have a lead line. This has got an 8-track sequencer on it. All the sounds that you're hearing, bar the drum sounds at the moment, have been created using the Atari Lynx and then edited using the Polyend tracker. So there you go, that was today's episode of Mad Gear. See, I told you I was going to show you how you can turn an Atari Lynx into an Atari synthesizer. Now, if you've got any comments or suggestions of something you would like us to talk about in a future episode, please write in the comments beneath. I will be looking at how we can use the Atari Lynx sound engine to create drum sounds for another episode, but I will be utilizing something different to my Polyend tracker. Get out there, make some mad stuff. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.